Cool. And I think just take us through the process. If someone's going to go and do it in South Africa in a mild hyperbaric, unit, do they put a mask on? Should they, their claims it's 90% oxygen. Should it be 100%? I've got a couple of
let's
websites.
Talk about that. Yeah, sure.
I've got a couple of websites here where they say it's 90%. I'm not going to mention any names here, obviously, but there are different percentages of people putting masks on. Sometimes I see, on websites, there's no mask. They're in a unit without a mask.
Right.
Just tell us about the user who's going to do that.
Yeah, it's a really great question, Steve. So what happens is there's a couple different ways this can work. You can go into a chamber and the chamber can be pressurized with 100% oxygen, or it can be pressurized with the air that's at sea level, okay? And so when you're pressurizing with 100% oxygen, that can only be done in a medical grade chamber in a supervised facility, because it is dangerous, and absolutely no mild chamber should ever have 100% oxygen in it, because they're not made for that, okay? Now, what can happen is if you don't have 100% oxygen in the chamber is that you have a couple different options. The first option is that you can just pressurize the chamber itself without any extra oxygen. When you do that and you pressurize a hyperbaric environment, say it's a 1.3 atmosphere chamber with air, what's going to happen is that the density of the air gets thicker, okay? There's still 21% oxygen in the air, but you actually get more oxygen into circulation. So by just breathing the air that's in your chamber, that was sea level air and now pressurized, you're getting about 46% more oxygen in circulation without any more oxygen that you're breathing. Now, what will happen is that you can get oxygen additionally in a couple different ways. You can get it by face mask, you can get it by nasal cannula, you can get it by hood. And it depends on the type of chamber that you're going to be using. Typically for mild units, they're going to be using either a face mask or a nasal cannula, and they're going to be using an oxygen concentrator, which is outside the chamber, and pumping oxygen into the chamber through the nasal cannula or through the mask. Now, you should never be in a chamber where the oxygen is just allowed to just kind of spray everywhere while you're in the chamber. It should be something that you're getting on your face, nasal cannula, or better off a mask, because that's going to keep it more contained. You want to keep the environment of a mild chamber or even a medical grade chamber that's not set up to be 100% oxygen. You don't want that oxygen level to be above about 21 or 22% inside the chamber. And so unfortunately, most chambers don't test for these kinds of things, in the sense of if you were, as far as the flow rates out of the chamber once you get in them. Because basically what happens is the chamber gets pressurized, and then as the pressure gets to the pressure that you want it to be at or that it's made for, then you have release valves that release the pressure so it maintains at that pressure. And so you don't know what those release rates are going to be and things. So it's really important that if you're going to get oxygen in the chamber, you do like a face mask or a nasal cannula. Face mask is better because it's going to keep it more contained. And as far as how much oxygen is getting in there, that's also, it's interesting because people don't really understand this. Obviously coming out of an oxygen concentrator, typically you're going to have about 90 to 95% oxygen coming out of it, okay? And so then it's getting pumped in at 10 liters a minute. But it has to get through the pressure of being in a hyperbaric environment. So by the time it actually gets to you, it's probably about 5 liters a minute at 1.3, okay? And so at 5 liters per minute at 90% oxygen, you are probably increasing your what we call your FiO2, your fractional inspiration of oxygen, from about 21% to maybe about 35 to 40% tops. And so you're not breathing 90% and you're not getting 90% oxygen. It's just not happening. And that only happens if you have very, very high flow rates and hoods on your head. And we do that in deeper pressures. When you're going to a medical grade chamber that you're going to 2 atmospheres, that's when you use like either a 100% non-rebreather mask, which you've maybe seen in the past, or you can put a hood on them so they have like something on their neck that they're wearing, and then that seals them so they're getting 100% oxygen in there. And so those are the only ways you can get to 100% oxygen, is 100% non-rebreather, a hood, or 100% oxygen in the chamber itself. And a lot of it depends on the flow rates as well. So in general, the mild chambers are either going to have no extra oxygen or they're going to have an oxygen concentrator. And in either case, there are benefits, but those are the basic ways to delineate.